Yesterday I shared with you my beautiful Zamora blouse from Itch to Stitch in this leopard print. I've got it on right now, and I had promised a simplified version to share with you today. It's got all the features minus one. If you keep watching, you can see how this neckline can be finished and adapted so it doesn't have the ties. Hi sewing friends, I'm Karina from liftingpinsandneedles.com. Welcome to this channel that is all about sewing. I share a lot of practical sewing footage of techniques I sew when I make garments. You can actually see how they're done right here on the channel, and you can apply those techniques in other projects you have, learn new tricks and tips from my 30 years of sewing experience. So if you think that's cool, go ahead and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out when videos go live. Yesterday I shared with you this blouse that I have on today, the Zamora blouse from Itch to Stitch. I made it in this amazing blue toned leopard print. It's the only reason I've ever sewn a leopard print fabric, because they're usually not my thing. But because it's got blue, I was totally drawn to this fabric and I made it. So if you haven't seen the details of this blouse in yesterday's video, please go over there if you want to know more about the pattern, because there I do like a pattern review. I talk about the recommended fabrics, the sizing, what options I chose, and I showed how to sew these pin tucks that are here on the front that you can't see because it's a print. I know I have to make these in a solid so you can see them better. This is not the most simple design you could ever sew. You do need some sewing experience under your belt. It's not a beginner project as such. If you're very motivated, you can follow the instructions. The diagrams are super good. You know, Itch to Stitch instructions are always excellent. And I have shown how to sew the pin tucks. That can be, for a lot of people, the most daunting aspect of the blouse. So you can go and look there. You can see it's not that hard to do and it's really fun to do. Now, I showed this blouse on Patreon a couple of months ago already, and one of the ladies there on Patreon asked, can it be done without the ties? She was interested in doing a version with no bow here. And I thought, of course, you know, with sewing, you can do almost anything you want, just making a few changes here and there. You know, limitless sewing, that's what I say. And I'm going to pop up a picture that I shared yesterday here of the blouse on without the ties. You can see that the raw neckline there without the ties is super low. And when I tried it on while I was sewing, I was a bit, worried. But then when you put the ties on, it's fine. There's nothing to see. It's all good, But you can't just finish the neckline in a different way and just leave that same original depth there, because it's just too low. And I don't know about you, but I do not want to be showing cleavage and areas of my bra, because that's how low I found it to be. So it needs to be corrected. I got this blouse out of 1 meter of fabric. It was a remnant. Part of the print was damaged, so I had to really play Tetris there to get my blouse. And you're going to see later that I've done a short sleeve version, and I've modified a little bit the curve of the hem. The original blouse is shorter on the side and then it curves down, and you've probably seen that in yesterday's video. I wanted that curve to be slightly less. In Up Close and So Personal, I'm going to show you how I raise the neckline while keeping the shape of the integrated facing, and how I'm going to finish this on the inside with bias tape. It can be store-bought bias tape or self-made bias tape. In this case, I had to use store-bought bias tape. You're going to see a lot of practical things in the following clip. So let's hop over there to the footage that you like watching and that I like filming for you. This is the original front for the blouse. You can see the outline in red where the original is, and I have put paper behind that. Now the neckties do raise that. The neckties are quite wide and they do give a lot of coverage, so it's not that the V neckline of the original blouse is plunging. It's plunging if you want to skip the ties, which is not the original design. So I'm thinking of raising this neckline a good 1.5 inches. And in order to do that, you need to follow the original folds that this has. So you see the shape right there. You have a first fold at 3/8 of an inch, and then you have marked the fold right there. So that fold just needs to continue up. So I'm just going to go ahead and fold that there, the first fold at 3/8 of an inch, and then fold it in like that. So that being folded, now I can go ahead and modify this. Now these little tucks are going to affect the way I raise this. If these tucks weren't there, I would start from up here, probably tapering the line up. But because I don't want to modify these pin tucks, I'm probably going to start an inch below that first one there. And I'm going to measure from here where this plunging neckline would be. 1.5 inches is 4 centimeters in metric. That's what I'm using. So from there up 1.5 inches. And this is the point where I'm going to start drawing this new line. And it's just very easy. You just draw a new line. And now I'm going to cut this out. And that is going to be the new neckline. It's raised. And it also has the same shape this original one had. You know, it keeps the shape, it keeps everything the same. It's just going to cross over a little bit higher. When I cut my front facing interfacing, there is a pattern piece for that. I'll just cut it longer at the bottom. The other small change I'm making is softening this curve at the hem here. So you can see the original line there on the front and on the back is quite pronounced. So I've added from there 1.5 inches, just following the line, and then just met the curve right there. And right there, it's a little bit flat and then it curves because you have to consider the seam allowance. So that's what I've done there. Just added 1.5 inches there and then just made a new curve there. And they both match. I've done the same interfaced, folded first by 3/8 and then folded again. Both sides. The neckline has been stay stitched at a previous step, so that's already protected. All these little pin tucks have been done and top stitched. I even did the side seams and the darts and everything. So I did everything because basically the step that comes now of doing the neckline is going to be in the same step as stitching this on here and doing the hem at the same time. So that's why this sort of needed to be almost complete. Once I've done all this and the hem and all that continuous thing I'm going to do now, then comes the sleeves. Before tackling the neckline, it's necessary to finish the bottom here of the integrated facing. I'm planning to do a 1 centimeter or 3/8 of an inch hem. It is a curved hem, and a narrower hem is better than a wider one, so that's what I'm doing. So that's why I just turned this onto itself. I had already pressed that like that because that's how it's going to be. But at the bottom, I just folded it onto itself, right sides together, including that bit that's been folded, and I just sewed that there at 3/8 of an inch. And that's been done on both sides. And now if you flip, it's really clean at the bottom like that. And now the hem comes from behind that, and that's where the hem starts. But I like this finish. It's really neat. It's less bulky than just having it all raw and then folding it twice, because then you have raw areas there. So I prefer this method, and I don't even snip that. I just flip it. And that's it. And now that I know that this is done at the bottom, now we can go up to the top. Okay, so this is the left front here, the one that goes on the left side of your body. I'm just grabbing 18mm double fold bias binding. This is satin bias binding, or you can make it yourself. And I'm using that first fold, and I'm just going to line this up there, right there. I'm going to pin that to the edge. The seam allowance for this neckline when you were using the ties was 3/8 of an inch, like when you attach the ties. But this is bias binding, and 1/4 of an inch higher neckline is not going to damage anyone, especially when the neckline is sort of low. So this is just going to go all the way around to the other side. And then when we flip this, like that, it's going to look like this. And the bias binding is going to come from behind that integrated facing, and it's going to be super neat. Okay, so I have pinned all the way around. When I got to the other side, I folded that as well, the same. And you can see the bias tape reaches almost the edge there. It does need to cross over the fold line here, so it does need to come out further there. So I'm just going to sew that. I need to start sewing from the very edge here so I can close up that neckline as well. I don't like to back tack there because it can get bulky. I can just knot that afterwards. And I'm going to guide myself on that fold of the bias binding. I didn't back tack there, I'm just going to knot this. After sewing that, I just want to do some snips. Now if you notice, I did catch that little pleat there. The pleat is tiny and I am going to catch that with the bias binding as well. Okay, so if you notice here, when we flip this, the bias tape is coming from behind it. Like that, and it's going to be super neat. Another step that needs to happen now is to understitch that there, just like you would a facing, or I always do this with bias tape. So you catch all the seam allowance towards the bias tape, so this way. So I'm going to start with the right side. This is the right side of the body there, and I'm going to make sure all that seam allowance goes towards the bias tape, towards the left there. So I just put a pin there, and I'm using the edge foot to help make this super accurate. Now you can start this just a little beyond that fold there. There you can see I did that understitch just a little beyond there. Okay, so I'm going to flip this. The bias tape is behind the integrated facing right there. And I'm going to pin this all the way around, pin it down. And then I'm going to go a step further and hand baste this down, and I'm going to catch all the neckline, including this integrated facing, and then it will just be so easy to sew on the sewing machine. So the bias tape has been hand basted on, and I've already pressed it as well to just make it nice and flat. Now here on this area, I sort of basted there and there, so there's like a bunch of thread there. But when I sew, I'm going to sew like that and pivot there and then start there. So this little area here, I'm going to sew by hand and just fix it there invisibly. What I don't want is from the right side to have this go up there and then this cross there. I don't like the look of that. I want it to go there, pivot, and then go there. And that leaves that little area there that needs to be sorted. So this is basted. I decided I'm going to hand hem this. So I'm basically going to be sewing this, doing that little pivot thing there, up the neckline, around the back of the neckline, down the other front, there, pivot, and then all the way down. When I pivot there from the edge here, it's going to be about 2 centimeters, I think. Yeah, and I'm going to guide myself on the edge right there. No, it's actually 5/8 of an inch. Yeah. So I was doing an inch there on the integrated facings, and now for this one, it's a 5/8 of an inch. Okay, so that's done, that's sewn there. It's got that little pivot there, and then comes the neckline and up there. Now I need to remove some basting stitches, but I need to secure this by hand there invisibly. Here is my blouse. I love it so much. This was like a border print on the selvages. It had navy blue, it had a section there of just navy, and then came these flowers from the selvage, and then came stripes all the way towards the fold, you know. So when you open the fabric, there was blue, flowers, stripes. And I love fabrics that have stripes and flowers together. I think it's really cool. And that the stripes were vertical also was another bonus, you know, because vertical stripes are my friends, horizontal stripes are not my friends. So I'm super happy how I was able to place the pattern pieces like that to have that blue across the front. I think it creates a really nice focal point for you to look at right there going down. I think that's awesome. And you can see the V neckline is still there. The integrated facing is overlapping with the buttons the same as this. The only difference is that this one has a tie that would come out of here and there and be sewn onto the edge, and this one doesn't. So the neckline is higher here, 1.5 inches from the center up, as you saw, tapered below where the pin tuck starts. So the pin tucks are still there. The feature that I like the most is still there on the blouse. So there's no change there. And you can see that I have a shorter sleeve. I couldn't get a long sleeve with a meter of fabric, you know. So I did as long as the fabric allowed me to do. And this ends up being 9 inches shorter than the bracelet length of the blouse. You take the longest sleeve, like this is the bracelet sleeve, and this is 9 inches shorter. It's still wide here, and I used the same cuff piece that this one has. It's very narrow. I just made the cuff piece longer. The circumference around your arm above the elbow is larger than one over here around the wrist, right? The circumference of this circle is just slightly larger than this one, and I still gathered the sleeve into there to keep the same look as this, you know, only it's shorter above the elbow, and I really like that. The cuff is also hand sewn inside to not have top stitching there on the top, same as I did for my satin version. So there are things that I did repeat there. So it looks really neat inside. It's catching that pleat at the center back. I love how the bias tape comes from behind the integrated facing. There's a little area there that's been hand sewn invisibly. And it's such a neat, clean finish, you know, so neat. And then you saw that this is done continuously. I opted to do a hand hem. Now, in the past, I have made other garments with stripy fabric, and I have done the same. I hand hem. I don't like blue thread going across the white areas. And if I used white thread, it would go on top of the blue areas. I don't like that. I just don't like that. So if I don't like it, I don't have to do it. I can do it by hand, no drama. And I am extremely happy with this. Super happy. I think this one is less formal because of the type of fabric and the type of print. So have a look at how this one fits. I didn't modify the length to this one. It's the same original length, although I did modify something on the hem that I'm going to show you when I get up close. So it's got the same proportions as the original one that I made with satin, only this is short sleeves and it has the V but no tie, you know, it's like a simplified version. I also have it with my Eddystone jeans and some heels. I would wear this like that and be very, very comfortable. And I really like how this looks. Up closer, I showed you on the other blouse that there was a curve here on the side, and I have kept the curve but softened it a little bit. So the original here, you know, a bit higher than there. From the side seams, I lengthened 1.5 inches to both the front and the back, and then just tapered in to meet the curve that the blouse has there. So it's a softer curve. It's still curved, but just softer. Here I also didn't sew those 2 dots that are available as an option. I just left them loose because I'd rather have this be loose fitting like that. Here on the side you can see my bust dot there for the C cup is correctly placed for my height there. And I did sew the dots here on the back as usual. I do like dots over there. You can see here that the amount I added onto the neckline, that 1.5 inches to raise it, is good. I have a nice V, it's a nice depth, but it's still modest. Like, I'm not showing anything. There's nothing on show. If I hadn't have modified it, it would be very low without the ties. It would just be unwearable for me. You could actually see my bra, and it's not a look I'm ever going for. So 1.5 inches is perfect there. Inside is finished with bias tape, as I've shown, like a facing type finish, and I really like that. Now, because this has a bit of stripes, they do sort of show the little pin tucks a little bit more. Maybe you can see them there, right there. Very, very intricate, delicate details there. The same gathered sleeve at the top, which is always cool because you don't have to worry about gathering because it's supposed to have gathering. I cut my sleeve 9 inches shorter than the bracelet original length. So that's the length I have here. And I use the same cuff piece. I only adapted the circumference to fit here because this area is wider than this area over here. I like how the blue goes across the front. I think that's really cool, and that the flowers go there, and then we have stripes, you know. It's just those fun prints that can just make a garment look really different. And I still say I should have made these blouses with solids, because all this work doing these little pin tucks, you can't really see them that much, and it would be nice to see them, you know. You know, these types of blouses are super feminine, they're super classic. I mean, my mom had blouses like this in the 80s. I've seen them around in the 90s, in the 2000s, the 2010s, 2020s. You can wear styles like this for a long time if you just want a really classic feminine look. I know some people think these blouses are like for offices and stuff. I've never worked in an office, and I'll wear this and I'm completely happy in a blouse like this. I think it's just a really elegant design. My affiliate link for the Zamora blouse is down below in the description box. As always, if you purchase through there, I receive a small commission that helps support me. So I hope you feel motivated to try a style like this, whether it be with all the features or with a simplified version, to match your sewing experience or your level of motivation, because you know, a highly motivated person can achieve great things with patience. So I hope you enjoyed the content I shared around this blouse, the pin tucks, the modified version, and that you can apply these techniques to other projects. And talking about applying things to other projects, tomorrow I will show you a dress. It's a free pattern that I've been planning for a long time. It's a beautiful dress, and I'm actually going to use this exact technique on that dress. And it's not the way the dress intended it to be finished, but it can apply, and I'm going to use it because I like it, and the result is always really good. I am sewing that dress right now, so that video will be up tomorrow, hopefully around the same time as this one. Happy sewing. I hope you're staying safe. I will see you again very soon with another sewing video tomorrow, hopefully. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.